Hello, welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. OU Texas week. We just got done talking to Brent Venables. Welcome in, George. How are we?
No hat.
No hat. No hat.
Quite the look.
Got
I love
a nice shirt on today for you. Had
It's a big
TV
week.
responsibilities this afternoon, and I want to have respect for you, the viewer out there. How are we? Here we are. It's best week of the year, in my opinion.
Yep.
I don't think that, like I've been talking about it on radio. We'll talk about it on the Unofficial 40, which, by the way, if you have any great OU Texas stories, I'm talking like really good. I don't want to know about your buddy that got too drunk and missed the game. That's child's play. If you have any good ones, Eddie Ratto at Soonerscoop.com. Send me an email, and maybe we'll read it on this week's Unofficial 40. I think we're going to try to go over some. Maybe we'll get them into the show on Thursday when we actually preview the game. We're going to be joined by Joe Cook from Inside Texas, one of our good buddies down in Austin. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But we did talk to Brent Venables today. I think that, it's a little bit weird in that everything that the players talk about this week is just another game. But it's not just another game. This is a monumental game for Oklahoma. And, just as much for Oklahoma. We talked about it on the Eskridge Lexus postgame show, George. This is a monumental game for Texas to announce that they're backing into a national title race.
I think that's the national narrative, right? I think that's what's going to be the storyline this week when we see College Game Day, Fox, all these people talking about this game is going to be centered largely around Texas, and are they a real national title contender? Now, obviously, Oklahoma is going to be in that discussion too if they go and win on Saturday, and there's going to be a lot of discussion. Hey, is this OU team for real? That you look at their schedule, they haven't played a lot of great teams. You and I have talked a lot about that. But, yeah, this is a massive game. I mean, biggest OU-Texas game since, I know everybody says 2011 because both teams were undefeated, but I'd say maybe even 2008. You talk about two national title contending teams that year. I think that the winner of this game is squarely in the playoff picture. Even in the loser could still be in the playoff picture. So just a massive game, huge week, like you said, Eddie, and it's just not an ordinary week in any way.
Absolutely, and it's it's not an ordinary week for what is media availability either, George. I know that has been we get it. The only people that truly care about this stuff is us, the media, but at the same time. I think that it's interesting because there is so much talk about this just being another week. You want to keep everything the same, nameless, faceless opponent. But when they only give us 4 players to talk to and just a little bit of, inside baseball here, we usually get like 8 guys on Monday and Tuesday. Monday, we went to post-practice, only got 4 guys. It was Drake Stoops, Dylan Gabriel, McCade Mattower, as well as Woody Washington. You asked Brent Venables about that.
Yeah, and I think, look, do we want to talk to every single player every night? Yeah, of course. We'd love to talk to 16 guys every single week like we have been throughout the season. But, Brent limited it this week to 4 guys that are 4 very veteran players, guys that are not going to give Texas any sort of bulletin board material, right? They're going to say the right things. They're going to talk about last year's game and wanting to not perform the way that they did a year ago. And so I asked Brent, what was that decision? And does that kind of speak to, hey, this isn't in any other, type week. This is a different type of atmosphere, different type of game. And his answer I thought was interesting, saying that, they're treating it like any other week. But I think that, some of that, Eddie, is not always true. I still think that it's a little bit different for them. But I think his point is correct in terms of the media does play this up quite a bit.
No, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a massive game for everybody. Here is the back and forth between George and Brent Venables on Tuesday.
There's always a lot of discourse this week, whether it's from fans or us, the media, generate a lot of it. We only got 4 guys to talk to this week, 4 veteran guys. Is that just a decision of, hey, we have a singular focus, this is a game?
You want me to be totally honest. I know how, like, a lot of times on Mondays or Tuesdays, when you talk to the guys, it's still about last week. It's never about this opponent. And this week is always my 13, 14 plus years experience is that we try to get somebody. That's how I see it, right, wrong, or indifferent. I still like y'all and respect y'all, but it's like, oh, let me see if we can get him to say something. And so that's now we want to talk about this week's opponent, So we got 4 good ones to represent us, the right way. But that's it.
Does that just speak, though, to, like, this week is different than a lot of weeks?
I mean, it's not different for us in a lot of ways. Most ways it's not. I do think that for the media, it's a bigger deal. That's not a bad thing. It's not a great thing, whatever it is. But that's my experience in dealing, that's a lot of experience.
As far as this just being another game, I know that you guys say that you want to treat it like every other game, but is that hard? I mean, realistically?
Yeah, it is hard, especially, around campus and all the outside noise. But I think, the good teams are the ones that can block out all of that. And if you treat it, if it's a nameless, faceless opponent, like we've treated the first 5 games, it's not going to matter who we play as long as we, are focused on the DNA of the team and their schemes and things like that. It doesn't matter who we play. We could play Alabama or Texas or whoever. And I think the outcome will be the same no matter who you play or depending on the game, so.
A lot easier said than done, George. I know that you can talk about this being a nameless, faceless opponent, but when you pull into the fair on the bus and you're going through the throngs of people that will be there at 7:30 in the morning, drinking wax cup beers and eating corn dogs, it's just a different vibe. I mean, you've covered this thing before. Even from a media circumstance, it's a much different game than just a normal regular season game.
The anxiety is through the roof. Just even as a media member going into the game and thinking of what could play out. And I think you're always in the media trying to think of, okay, well, what's my story going to look like today? There's no telling what's going to happen in this game and the momentum swings that come with it. And, one play here or there changes the whole outlook of the game. And so it's one of those things. Those guys are going to say nameless, faceless opponent. That seems to be a motto around Norman right now.
Well, and it's a mentality too that this team. It seems that it has, and it seems like it's worked for them. But that's why Saturday's such a big game, right?
Yeah, and I think that behind closed doors, and I'm sure they're still saying those things. Obviously they are. But behind closed doors, those guys know what this game means for this program, for themselves. I mean, you talk about how many guys are from the state of Texas on this football team. I mean, this game means something to those guys. A lot of these guys in high school played against each other, maybe even played with some of these guys. So this game always means a little bit extra. But I think that mentality of nameless, faceless opponent is a good approach. And again, with the media stuff, I think that there are people out there wanting to, get the classic Brian Bosworth quote out of him. I hate Orange.
It would be great. It would be great if we went to a post practice and got somebody running their mouth, right?
Yeah, but that's not something Brent wants, and so that's why you understand it. You understand why they're doing that.
No doubt. And I think for this year, it's a little bit different just because of the way that last year went. And you have Dylan Gabriel back in action. He's not hurt like he was a year ago. They're not going to have to run a backup quarterback out there, and you're not going to have to hope that you score. I think it's expected that Jeff Lebby's offense scores on Saturday, but that's been a narrative throughout the week here. Early is bouncing back from a 49-0 embarrassment a year ago.
I mean, I don't know if the momentum, usually you say the momentum a year ago shouldn't have anything to do with this year. We've got a much different team. Many of the players in our locker room weren't here, but there's certainly many that were. I don't want to, skirt over that issue, but it's always important. I mean, I want to win every year, every game, and whether it's this week or it was last week. And, I don't know if, there has been some streaks. I don't know what that exactly looks like. But we need to, play well this week. That's the expectation. That's what we're working for. That's what we're preparing for. That's what our guys should expect if they have a great week of work. And again, we should be a confident football team going against another confident football team.
It's really exciting for me and us as a team. Second time. Last year was, besides the score, obviously, was a good experience, because I've grown up, watching that game, and I'm excited to have my second opportunity there. And we're working really hard, treating it like every other week, obviously, but it does mean a little more. But I think that the team that we have is different than last year, and I think you're going to see a lot of different things that we're going to do. But overall, we're all excited, and we're just preparing just like any other game. So,
not in particular. I just think throughout the off season, I think we were focused on getting better every day, whether it's 1% or trying to create strides in the different aspects, whether it's winter training, spring ball, summer workouts, and even in the fall camp. Just trying to get better each and every day and push one another as much as we could.
Yeah, I mean, that left a bad taste in all of our mouths. And at the end of the day, we want to go 1-0 each week, and that's really the goal. And so we want to go 1-0 this week. And like I just said, the past plays nothing to do with the present. And so here we are this year, and like I keep saying, we're ready to put our best foot forward and go to battle.
It's discouraging. 49-0 loss, but that's in the past now, so we're not really too much worried about it. We're just focusing on ourselves and trying to go get a dub.
Is there anything though that you can take away from that you can learn or you can use on Saturday?
Like I said, last year happened. They got on our tails pretty bad, so we're not going to use it as motivation or anything like that. We just got to go out this year and perform well.
Eddie, they can say that all they want, that
they're not thinking about last year.
Yeah, but you have to, the competitor in you, I would think that pisses you off, and you were there. I don't know what the mood was like. I'm sure obviously it was massive disappointment, but
it was one of those that it was over so early that you kind of knew it was over so early, and especially after they had the fake field goal, they got down the field, they weren't able to score. I think they ended up fumbling the ball away there in the red zone. It was, and because of the quarterback situation, it was almost like, God, if they get to 14, this thing's over. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's 28-0. And I think even the biggest Oklahoma fan that was sitting in the Cotton Bowl that might have been there 2 years before when those other people were here, when they led the comeback, when Caleb led the amazing comeback, and maybe one of the most memorable experiences that I've had at the Cotton Bowl. Even then, you knew that this thing was over.
And I think for a large part of those guys, they probably tried to just totally erase that game from their memory. But when you get back to it this year, this week, those guys that were a part of that game, and you hear from Woody Washington and Drake Stoops, especially those guys that have been in this program, seen what it looks like. I think you can even tell in the way Drake answered that question. He was like, yeah, I think it did piss them off, and I think they are. It is going to be a little bit in their head on Saturday in terms of, we want to prove that was clearly a fluke.
And think about it this way, even for just a bunch of these guys that have been a part of the Oklahoma program for so long, like a Drake Stoops, they hadn't been through something like that. They hadn't been through an embarrassment that was against your biggest rival on one of the biggest stages in the sport of college football. So it's going to be kind of interesting, but at the same time, there are so many new guys that are going to be going down there that are going to be counted on, whether it be a Deshaun McCullough or a Walter Rouse or whoever. The list goes on and on and on, of PJ Adebawore or Peyton Bowen. All of these new guys, I think the number's 50 right now, that they'll be taken down to the Cotton Bowl this week, that will be getting their first experience and having to go through everything that is OU Texas, even here on campus. It's because, we both went to school here. You know how different it is OU Texas week as opposed to even big games at home during the regular season.
The mood is just through the roof, right? I was at Midway Deli yesterday picking up lunch for us, and there were some older folks standing in line talking about the game.
Yeah.
You think, Dylan can play up to expectation. It's just everywhere, right, this week. There's festivities, things. Everybody's out of school on Friday. Really, a lot of people, I think, skipped class this week, Eddie.
I had a buddy in college, a fraternity brother, that he just didn't go to class.
Yeah, it's like spring break. This is everybody is going down there. Everybody's talking to you about the game. It's just different, man. And I think for those new guys, especially, I think a lot of the freshmen understand because they probably grew up. Peyton Bowen and PJ Adebawore, they've been committed for a while. They've probably seen this game. You think about the transfers, right? Like a Rondell Bothroyd, who played at Wake Forest for 5 years. He's never played in a setting like this. Even Dylan Gabriel didn't get to play in it last year.
Well, remember when we were talking about Dylan and what he did a year ago, or what he didn't do a year ago? I think that there was an adjustment period of just playing for Oklahoma, just in general. And Brent talked about that on his coach's show on Monday night, just in terms of, this week is different. But just being a part of the program at Oklahoma is a little bit different because of the expectation, because of people like us in the media that look at every single little thing, whether it be in June or January or whenever.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that I think, plays into this. And again,
was that a good point, or are you just saying that? I think you're kind of bypassing that. That's okay.
I think you're right. I think that, playing at Oklahoma means something. In this game,
Sure.
There's a reason this game on the schedule is always in gold, right? And it's not because it's just played at the state fair. This game means a lot more to people than any other game they play on their schedule. And I'm sure that's a difficult thing for Brent to teach some of those younger guys and be like, hey, this is the type of atmosphere you're going into. And Brent kind of downplayed it a little bit today.
Yeah.
It's like, it's any other week. But the truth is, when they walk in there, there's certain guys that are ready and certain guys that are not. And it's hard to be ready when you've never played in it. And guys are going to rise up, right? Like, there's always those heroes in OU Texas on either side that end up winning the football game, that come out of nowhere. And that's what you have to hope, that some of these young guys or some of these guys that have never played in this atmosphere are ready to be those heroes.
I think Kerry Murdoch brought it up on the Eskridge Lexus postgame show after the Iowa State game, just in terms of, you go into the facility down there over at the stadium, and there is a case in one of the hallways where the Golden Hat is supposed to go. And for so long, it's been home in Norman.
Yeah.
But, when you walk by that thing every day in and out of the Switzer Center, it's kind of a reminder of, kind of the failure of what last year was. So how are these new players going to handle it? What are they told by their teammates? That was a topic on Monday at post-practice, as well as Brent Venables on Tuesday.
Well, again, it's going to be the same. At some point in time every week, I talk about, don't allow your emotions to hijack you, and from a poise, from a execution, from a precision, from a focused intensity. You can't just be intense and a crazy guy out there. You gotta have a focused intensity. Which leads to details and precision and execution. And you go to practice, and it's a very passionate, intense practice. And I want our guys to feel a sense, some semblance of a game day, and the accountability that goes with it too. So that by game day, and again, you're not losing your mind. I'm not naive. I know what an environment can do, and but we're talking and trying to nurture that year round, and not to allow external factors to be a part of the game. Hey man, it should be a privilege to be in these moments where there's pressure and there's high expectations, but don't allow that emotion to hijack you and keep you from doing what you need to do do your 1 of 11 on one of those 3 parts of the game.
Yeah, I found out that, obviously we talked about the noise, talked about just what kind of different environment it is, being half crimson and half orange, right? I think understanding, like I said, once you get deeper and deeper in that territory, your instincts and you're not going to be going out verbal calls anymore. You got to really be in tune to watching, the safeties or whatever, instead of, listening to Tyler saying out or whatever. Like, I'm going to have to start seeing it once we get deeper and deeper in there. So I think understanding that part of it, I've been stressing it to a lot of guys that down in there, it's going to be impossible to hear. And we just got to be, tighter on the just instincts and just our having good eyes and things like that.
I guess you could say so. I think it's just, taking it in. Obviously, I didn't play, so it was just a different type of experience, but I thought it was pretty cool, just seeing it from a distance.
I mean, just really telling them that the energy is going to be everything, just to enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy the entire game. Just telling them stay poised. I mean, it's a big game, but it's really just the next game. So
I mean, it's a dogfight, and the closest thing for him, to give him some perspective that I could think of for him, would be Michigan, Ohio State. And still for me, I've never played in that, obviously, so I don't want to downplay that. But this is one of the greatest rivalries in all of college football. So just trying to reiterate that to him, and yeah, I mean, it burns a little different.
It's helpful for us just to know what we're getting into. Like, I know that when we get on that side, that orange side of the field, that the ground's going to be shaking, and we have to be extra in tune to our, our audio calls, especially on the snap count. And I think last year we got in trouble with that, but we just got to be in tune to that because it was really loud, and I think the ground was shaking when we were down there, especially in that red zone. After we're deep in that area, so.
It's different, man. There's nothing that I don't think that you can necessarily prepare yourself for what you get into. And, I think the weird thing about this game is whether they are both 5-0 or one's 5-0 and one's 0-5, you really, truly, and it's so cliche, and I kind of hate it at the same time, but it's true. You can really expect anything in this game, and the momentum swings. You've been in that stadium. I'm sure as a student, as a media reporter, it's different, and you can feel when things are switching. And you go back to 21, when basically everything was S was hitting the fan for Texas, and I was walking from the Texas end zone down into the Oklahoma end zone right before the fourth quarter, and you just looked around, and it's the video that I've tweeted it out. I'm sure that you've seen it if you're an Oklahoma fan. Like, at that moment, you knew that it was like they might have Texas where they want them right now. And then the Caleb Kelly fumble happened, or the forced fumble on the kickoff, and just like that, the momentum had swung, and Oklahoma was back in the game. And not only were they back in the game, but they were about to take the lead.
It's one of those games you throw the analytics out the window.
Sure.
Like it's funny, you see all these projections and these models out there right now about the game, and it's one of those things where you take it into account. Like you got to do certain things in this game to win, but it's those little plays. It's the muffed punts. It's the kickoff returns for touchdowns. It's the interceptions, the pick sixes, the strip sacks. Those are the plays that win this football game. The plays that that totally shift the momentum from one side of the stadium to the other, and the team that can come up with those typically wins. And I still think there's fundamental parts of it, Eddie, right? Like the team that runs the ball better typically wins the game. The team that gets more turnovers or doesn't make the big mistake wins the football game, and Oklahoma has to do those things well. But it's just funny to watch the discourse through the week of like, well, OU ranks this in rush defense, or Texas ranks better in this category, whatever. None of that matters to me, man. It's more so who's going to make the big play, who's not going to make the big mistake. The kicking game's going to be big, right? The field position, everything in this game matters, and that's the fun part of it, man, because it's like that game. I wasn't at it, but I remember watching it, and it's like you knew when I think it was the Mims touchdown throw from Caleb, and they cut it to 8.
Turned things.
It was just like, oh wow, they're in this thing. They could win it, and obviously they go on to, but it's a crazy game, and I just talking about it, man. It's goosebumps. It's awesome.
And I think in the back of my brain, as you're talking about the Marvin Mims touchdown throw from Caleb Williams, in the back of my sick brain, I was always thinking, God, I think we were probably wrong about Spencer Rattler. This Caleb Williams guy's pretty good. I know that you just S-ed all over the numbers and the statistics, but I do have some for you. Dillon Gabriel. This is what he leads the Big 12 in going into Saturday's Cotton Bowl. Total offense, total touchdowns, passing touchdowns, completion percentage, pass efficiency, and he's second in yards per attempt at 10.2. This game for me, and we're going to get into plenty of the particulars on Thursday in the opponent preview, but Oklahoma's going to have to be able to find a way to run the ball or do something on the ground. And I think that it's important that you have a Dillon Gabriel actually playing in this game, who is playing at an extremely high level. And some of the throws that he made last week against Iowa State, that might have been one of the better games he's played in an Oklahoma uniform.
He's playing really confident. I think I wrote he's playing with swagger, and that's what, again, those stats are great, and I think that gives him a lot of confidence. But it's that confidence that is allowing him to play so well. And I think that the run game, especially, it looked really good on Saturday for Dillon specifically. I think it was 8 rushes, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's something that if he can do that against Texas, all of a sudden maybe that opens up some new avenues for Oklahoma to be able to run the ball. I don't think they need to go in and run for 300 yards. Now, if they do that on Saturday, they'll probably win. But if they can find some success on the ground, which they haven't really been able to do consistently this year, but if they can figure it out on Saturday and Dillon can use his legs to make some plays, then I think Oklahoma is going to be in a spot to win this game.
Which is a mighty, tough test going against a Texas defensive front, and that specifically that front seven that is extremely good and gave Alabama fits. I think it was 9 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. But Brent Venables was asked about getting Dillon Gabriel incorporated in the run game on Tuesday.
No, it's I think most good offenses that you see out there today have some element of that. A year ago, we weren't we didn't have much depth at all at quarterback. We're a little better there now, and so I think every team that had issues maybe with the depth at quarterback would stay away from it as much as possible. And as you get a little more, it's just to have it as an element, when you need it and you feel like it can put you in a good position to be successful, more than willing to do it. Defenses will be the first one to tell you, that design quarterback run with somebody that can also throw the ball it's a tough challenge. And, he's got good enough instincts to be, to hurt you that way. And again, he's done a nice job, using his legs to improvise, and he does a good job of keeping his eyes down the field as well to, throw guys open.
It's going to be interesting to see, as much as they want to get Dylan involved with the run game, and, I think it was Josh McQuistion that mentioned this maybe on the show on Monday, the recruiting recap show from his trip to California. We talked a little bit about OU Texas. Do they get Jackson Arnold involved in some form or fashion in the option game possibly? You saw what Kansas was able to kind of do with Jason Bean. Not the same as Jalen Daniels, obviously, but it's going to be interesting. I do think that, both sides of the ball, whether it be Jeff Lebby or Ted Roof / Brent Venables, there's going to be different schemes and different things that they throw out there on Saturday, being that this game is, so important.
I think we're going to see some wrinkles on offense, especially. I think there's some things that maybe they've been holding back. I do think we'll see Jackson Arnold. I don't know what that'll look like. I don't think it'll be the Jackson Arnold package necessarily, but I think it'll be some sort of maybe trick play or some sort of I don't know. I really don't know. I think we might see him throw a pass in this game. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I'm really curious, Eddie, to see what the defense does. What is Brent Venables? It feels like they've obviously done some different things, some different blitzes. You heard Steve Sarkisian talk in his press conference. You turn on the tape and Oklahoma's running, so many different defenses. It's so hard to prepare for them. I'm interested to see what he dials up to get after Quinn Ewers to try and prevent the ball getting to some of those playmakers, because there's so many different guys that Texas has that they can get the ball to. But if you can get after Quinn Ewers, who isn't the most mobile guy, maybe you can create some turnovers, get some sacks. That's where I'm really interested too. That battle of, Steve Sarkisian is one of the best offensive play callers in college football, has been for a while, and Brent Venables is one of the best defensive play callers. So that battle, that matchup, that chess match is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it's something, again, OU's going to have to get some stops in this game. They're probably going to need to get a couple turnovers in this game if they want to win. So that's the matchup that I'm really excited about too.
It's going to be interesting too, just because you think, okay, yeah, Brent's going to just dial up some stuff. They're going to get after Quinn Ewers. You look at Texas's offensive line; it's been another strength. The two strengths of Texas's team right now are the defensive line and offensive line, and you got to be able to find a way to win in the trenches. I don't believe that they allowed a sack in Tuscaloosa, which you think about a Nick Saban defense and not being able to get after Quinn Ewers. And then they just got attacked over the top. And you talked about all the skill position players. It's a really interesting matchup just in terms of Brent Venables versus Steve Sarkisian. I know that that's another kind of one of those storylines that probably gets talked about too much when you need to talk about the players in the game. But how are Oklahoma going to affect a Texas offense that seems to be rolling coming into this game with just south of 700 yards against Kansas a week ago?
It's going to be tough. And I like Oklahoma's secondary. I think that, look, Woody Washington, Gentry Williams, those guys are playing really good football. You look at Key Lawrence, Billy Bowman, Reggie Pearson, all these, Peyton Bowen, they're playing really good in that secondary. But you give Quinn Ewers, more than a few seconds, those guys are going to end up getting beat just because they're so skilled. And it's tough, right, for a corner to cover somebody like an Xavier Worthy for that long. And so that's why you got to create some pressure. And we've seen, Danny Stutzman, Jaron Kanik, come off the edge. Deshaun McCullough, is he going to be somebody that they do some different things with? We haven't seen him rush the passer a ton just yet. I wonder if that's something we see on Saturday. So I think it's going to be crucial for Oklahoma to figure out that pressure. We haven't seen that, that defensive line come up big yet in the passing game in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback. So maybe this is the week. PJ Adebawore, does he have a huge game? He feels like somebody that could have a huge, game-changing type play. You're going to need that this week to get after this Texas offense.
And just as important to get after Quinn Ewers, you got to be worried about a run game that's coming in probably off of its best performance of the year against Kansas a week ago. And Jonathan Brooks, who went over, I think it was 220 against the Jayhawks last weekend. And that's something that I think as you look at what Oklahoma is defensively, that's something you can feel good about. They have stopped the run at a very, very good rate this season.
Yeah, and they haven't played a ton of great running offenses. So, again, it's one of those things with Oklahoma that it's like, how good are they just because you don't know how good the opponents they faced are. But they have been really good at tackling. Danny Stutzman, leading the team in tackles, obviously he's been great. But the defensive line has been really good. Ethan Downs has been really good on the edge, Rondell Bothroyd. So that is going to be pivotal again. If you can stop Texas running the ball, make them throw it. It's a pick your poison, right? It's cliche to say, but it really is with Texas's offense.
They passed the test in Cincinnati. The Bearcats had a really good rushing attack with the Corey Kiner kid and Emory Jones as well. This one's a little bit of a different animal when it comes to Saturday, and I think that all of the questions that go into what is OU Texas 2023 edition, it should be that much more fun. It's a great time to join Soonerscoop.com. We have a promo code or a promo going 50% off for a yearly membership. Visit Soonerscoop.com for more information. Sign up, tell a friend. George, it's been fun. This is the best week of the year. I think that, the Thursday opponent preview is going to be a lot of fun. We'll get more into some of the stuff that Brent Venables said on Tuesday, as well as some of the stuff that we talked to players with on Monday, just in terms of Texas-specific stuff. But can't wait to get down to the fair. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun here back in studio tomorrow when we reconvene for the unofficial 40. Bob Przbillo, Kerry Murdoch, and Josh McQuistion will join us as well. That's it for today's practice report. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll talk to you on Thursday.